Hello and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate. I am Jude Sandoval, your host, and this is the place where we help dads navigate through their life during and after divorce and create an amazing life for themselves and their children. Today, I am very, very excited to welcome Carol Henry to the show. Carol is a professional certified coach with the International Coach Federation and is certified in conversational intelligence. She works to help leaders step into their power both personally and professionally by working with leadership and team coaches. So, Carol, welcome to the show today. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, so we were talking the other day, and this led from a conversation about something completely different, but it led to us talking about something that we have a common passion about, and working on understanding kind of how our brain works and how we do stuff. And one of the things that we talk about on the show here often, and part of the coaching that I do with the dads going through divorce, is these adaptive behaviors that we learn usually in childhood that helped us to get through our childhood. And no matter how great a parent we may have had, and a lot of us have had not so great parents, right? But no matter how great a parent we've had to create some of these adaptive behaviors that helped us get through our childhoods. And sometimes these behaviors then also, we create them during adult life through maybe some kind of trauma as well. But we adapt. That's like the awesome thing as humans, right? We learn to adapt, which is so incredibly cool. But sometimes these adaptive behaviors then no longer work in our relationships, right?
That's right.
And they become maladaptive.
Yeah, they do. And it's interesting, when we are born, and any of us who have children, we know how different each kid arrives to us at 1 minute old with a different set of personality characteristics, temperaments, perspectives. Like it's really interesting how different we all are. And we come with a whole set of strengths and traits that we use to adapt. So you may have one kid who likes to control things all the time, needs to control everything outside of them. And you have another kid who
That's the oldest child, right?
Actually, mine's the opposite way
Really?
around.
Oh, interesting.
My oldest is a pleaser. She does not want to make waves. She really wants to make sure everything is calm. She will avoid. And these were all things that came naturally to her because they are some of her strengths. But when we overuse our strengths, they become maladaptive.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
In response to our family dynamics, my oldest child was that pleaser. My youngest child was restless and anxious and a controller. And so putting those two in the same family with somebody in the middle who was a very, very much of an avoider, strengthened their ways of adapting as kids in our family. So my oldest was very quiet and swallowed stuff. She didn't want to make the waves like her little sister did. And my middle son smoothed things over all the time. But you take that into adult life and into relationships, whether it's with your boss, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with the kids, husband, relationship, wife, regardless. When you take those in and overdo them, somehow you just don't get the goodies that you're really looking for.
Right. And then you're in this relationship, and for the men that are going through the divorce now, one of the first steps that we talk about and one of the programs I put them through is like identifying this. You got to identify this. It's literally the first building block of understanding what happened, and in understanding what happened is particularly for the men needing to have some like clarity and order around this, because it's so disruptive and so contrary to our masculine nature to have chaos. We want like things really orderly in our mind, and that is trying to put forth the learning around what these behaviors are. And what I have found in my own personal life, and still to this like weekday hour, is identifying your past relationships, which would mean, so I'm 8.5 years down from divorce, but the men that are going through, there are trends. There are things that have come up in your relationship that you had in other relationships, maybe with your parents or in previous relationships, taking the time to really identify.
Yeah, I mean, it's so critical. If you want to change, you really have to look inside and become self-aware, understand what your patterns are, because we can switch partners, but we're still there.
Right. There's one common denominator.
That's right. And we're still doing the same things because, as you well know, our brains have to process so much information that they're going to create shortcuts. So from the time you're really young, you create a story about yourself. And that incorporates these qualities that I'm talking about that can be overused and then become maladaptive or dysfunctional or counterproductive, whatever you want to say. But we do create those stories. And unless we tap into those stories, specifically when we're looking at what went wrong in any kind of interaction, deconstructing stuff, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a full relationship, you've got to know what your part is. You've got to know that we really do have choice if we look and become aware of how we do things and what our tendencies are and what our brain shortcuts tend to be.
Yeah, let's talk about stories for a second, because it's interesting that you brought that up, and that's something I've read a lot about recently. And the old idea in psychology used to be like you think about what you want to do and what you want to be, and then you go and do it. But they're really finding that you kind of like your behavior dictates who you are. So you go and do, and then you make up like the story behind what it is that happened or what the behavior is. So let's talk about that, because it's contrary, at least for me, in growing up and also in early self-help and self-development work, was this think it and it will happen thing. And that's really not what they're finding. It's like the opposite. So how do we deconstruct that when we're looking at what our behaviors are, and what might be some tools for us to try to flip the script and look, specifically what are the behaviors, what are my behaviors, and then understand that we might be telling ourselves stories about that aren't actually true.
Yeah, I think the way that I mean, my belief right now, after learning about the neuroplasticity of the brain and how the brain stores information and it wants shortcuts, and how this part of our brain is the primitive part of the brain, and it holds all our emotional memories, and it's the first thing to react with any new stimuli. So if something comes towards you, whether it's a conversation or it's a bad driver or it's your kid comes home and tells you they've done something horrible, that your first place to actually respond is your primitive brain. And it's going to respond with, is this dangerous? Am I in danger? And if it does, and it happens within 0.07 seconds, like the bat of an eye, all of a sudden it makes a decision. And if you do not interrupt that decision, then you're on autopilot, using your old stories, all your old memories that you use to really understand your position in life, what you're capable of, what opportunities are there. And then you are judging all the time. You're judging yourself, you're judging others, and you're judging circumstances. And if you just stay at that level, you tend to stay here. You got to move out of here and into your higher level problem solving, creative brain, which is your prefrontal cortex. And in order to do that, you have to have some tricks and tools. Otherwise, this guy back here is running the ship, and it's not with current information.
Right.
It's only with past.
And that's what makes it so challenging, particularly for those who've gone through some kind of traumatic experience, because if their brain, and I've read about this, it automatically lights up, and it's lighting up more here than it is here. And for those of you listening, I'm talking about the back of your brain. The back of your brain is the area where you said the primitive area, and the prefrontal cortex is in the front. And what we need in order to make the better decisions is that prefrontal cortex in the front, the one that's that is rationalizing through things and working through things and sorting out the problems, and not the reactionary primitive one in the back, which is lighting up. And that's why oftentimes also the veterans that come back from war have been conditioned to see and go through, and they have this post-traumatic stress, and so they're able to focus like very specifically on one task because they can slow it all down, because they have this unique ability, which is amazing because they've been through these traumatic things and been able to create this cope exactly with that in their brains. But then they can't do that in relations because that's all they're doing it from the back of their brains, and they can't do that. So there's all this, body of work now around this, which that we can like take and help us in our everyday lives, which is really awesome. So what can we start doing now? One of the things you and I have talked about is this positive intelligence work that you do with clients, and that is out there as well, that helps to, for a lack of better way to say it, rewire your brain.
Right. So if you think about your brain having two highways, one to the primitive part of your brain, and it's way more negative oriented, and one to the prefrontal cortex, the young strategic part of your brain, there's a chemical response, first of all. So if you default here, there's a chemical response that shuts down here, so that you really don't even have access unless you know how to get it back.
Right.
And the more you go to the negative, it becomes from a dirt road to a 2-lane highway to a 4-lane highway. Whereas if you start doing some mental exercises to develop the muscles to go positive, you're going to, the neural pathways will atrophy a bit to the negative part, to your negative default, and it will start to build up the highway to the positive part. But it's like physical fitness. It's a muscle. Your brain's a muscle, and you have to retrain it to get away from your old habits. And in positive intelligence, the theory says that that the wiring takes a lot of practice, and the more practice that you do, there is a possibility to actually change the gray matter in the front part of your brain. And there's a lot of research that Shirzad Shamin, the originator of this theory, has done, maybe more than 500,000 data set points on what happens as you build your muscle to go to the positive as opposed to the negative. I think that there's always a bit of a tug here, because he's divided the brain up into the sage part of the brain. He calls it the sage, and the saboteurs. And the saboteurs are the qualities that you use that start out as strengths, but you overuse them, and then they begin to get in your own way of getting the things that you really need and really want.
Right. Or another way to look at it is that's the part of our brain that has kept us alive for millennia.
Yeah,
so
it's the survival brain. You're absolutely right.
Right. So there was a time where that part of our brain was going to allow us to either live or be eaten by a dinosaur.
Exactly.
And now we don't have dinosaurs around, but that part of our brain, still is working, and it's reacting to the different situations that we have now. Is that a fair assessment?
Correct. Yep. And typically our struggles that we have are the struggling between the old perceptions of how things are, which are based on our stories and all the memories that we brought forward, as opposed to the reality of a particular situation. So how do you get to see the reality when a stimulus makes you have a biochemical response. That's the first thing that happens.
Right, and it's going to be flight or fright or fight or freeze.
Right, and I also say appease, because that's
Appease?
a new adaptation. Groupthink, not saying what you think, but saying what you think the other person wants, or being with the group. And then, you know, like, you're denying yourself and you lose yourself, and you are just a bundle of neurochemical responses out of control, basically.
Right.
So what we want to do is we want to be able to.
So can I stop you for a quick second? Because
Yeah.
I just want to then identify that. So then Jude's bringing all of these things, right? This way that my brain has been wired to a relationship with somebody who's got their own way that their brain has been wired. And you like bring these together in a relationship. And then you can see, like, if you're not aware of this, how it can cause so much difficulty and challenges and often pain, because then you just, you know, you might love each other, you might want to figure stuff out, or you might want to do anything to make this happen. You just can't figure it. It's your brain, right? We weren't given a manual when we were born on how to understand this. So then that's where it becomes really incredibly difficult then in relationship. So yeah, so then go for it. I just wanted to point that out for all of us that are doing, and I'm still doing this, or I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. And I think we, to some extent, are always, still doing it. So anybody that's listening or watching, just know that no matter where you're at, we're all trying to figure this out at different stages, at all different points in our lives. The point in divorce, there's a lot of reflection, self-reflection at this point. And so that's why it's a really fantastic time to understand this stuff. So I just wanted to point that out, because then that helps us to understand, like, why then there's so much conflict. And it's not like people hating each other. It's people, like, we're all trying to just figure this stuff out.
Yeah. And you know, it's very interesting. So if we talk about relationships, and I don't care who that relationship is with, but important relationships that matter. So, you know, it doesn't matter if it's your wife or your kid, or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whomever, your boss, your coworker, it doesn't really matter. But what we really notice is when we first start in relationship, that in love, we've called it the honeymoon phase. Mm-hmm. You're dancing so beautifully together because you're open to each other's ideas. And what we're saying there is you're in your sage brain when you're first with your new boss, or with this new friend you just met at coffee, and time passes so fast and you don't know what's going on, but you know you've connected because you're dancing in your sage brains, and it's very contagious.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm in my sage brain, I'm going to bring your sage brain forward, because I'm creating trust and collaboration and creativity. And so we're bouncing off in that sage part of our brain. And then as things move along, all of a sudden, my controller comes out. And that's a saboteur. Mm-hmm. And as my controller comes out, it may hook your victim.
Yeah.
So because I'm in saboteur brain with controller, I attract something in you that can relate to controller. And it's not going to be your sage unless you know about your sage and work and have developed your muscles to get there. Rather, I'm going to get your victim. Right. And together we're going to dance, and I'm going to control you, and you're going to hate me and the circumstances I create because I'm trying to control you. And you're the poor victim that this always happens to.
Yeah. And then it just triggers that back part of your brain. And then and then, like you said, instead of working from the front, you're working from the back. And then that's where that dance goes.
And that's why in our relationships that are ongoing, we tend to have the same darn disagreements and conflicts. They're always the same.
I know, it's so sad and frustrating.
The picture could change a little bit, and you know what? If you move on to the next relationship, you're going to do the same thing until you get it.
Yeah.
Until you get how you react and how you behave and how you process your emotions and reactions to things puts you either in choice, so that you can go to your sage brain and you can figure things out in a with ease and flow and peace and clarity, or you go to the same old story and then you're just caught in the same trap.
Yeah, I like that. I like that phrase that you said, that you're in choice then, because once you become consciously aware of it, or it's raised to your conscious awareness by somebody or a therapist or a coach or your spouse even, or whoever you're in relations with, you can learn a lot by looking and identifying and talking to who you're in relations with, because they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna trigger all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So once that raised to your conscious awareness, then you have the choice, and then that's where right. You know, what was your phrase? The inspiration.
Yeah. That's where the inspired action, the creativity, the connecting. The bonding, that all happens here. It can't happen here.
No, but you had a phrase that was inspiration is good, but you have to do the work. What was that?
Inspiration. What we're learning as coaches is that inspiration is cheap. I mean, we can inspire anybody in the moment, but until you learn how to put it into practice, and by practice I mean a practice, something that you do every single day, just like you go to the gym, you got to do the same thing with your mind and teaching it how to develop the positive pathways as opposed to defaulting to negative emotions. And
so you got to
feelings.
do the work. You got to approach this as, and the challenging thing with this is it's the analogy of going to the gym, etc. It works, except that our mind is always on. So we always have to be aware of and try to just be cognizant and pay attention to what's happening, so that we can stop what it is that we're doing and then say, oh, okay, I have these tools that Carol taught me with the positive intelligence, and then I am going to utilize it. So that is the biggest challenge that I've found, right? Is because this stuff comes up, it gets triggered, not at the convenient time where I've said, I'm going to the gym, or I'm going to my mental gym for this hour today, and I'm going to build this muscle. It's like you're having to build it all day long and like throughout your life, and you never know when it's going to happen. But if you're consciously aware of it, make the choice and make the effort. Would you agree?
And I would totally agree. And what's very, very interesting is there, when I first introduce the theory and what's going on with positive intelligence, I often get the response, oh, but I'm supposed to process my emotions. I'm not supposed to avoid the emotions that I'm feeling. So you're telling me to get out of them so fast. The point of a negative emotion is the same thing as if you think about a burner on a hot stove. When you put your hand on the hot stove and it starts to hurt and you realize you're burning it, do you leave your hand there?
Right.
Because you want to feel the pain?
Right. No.
Or do you go, I better take my hand off.
Right.
So we're not proposing that you don't feel. We're proposing that your feelings and the negative things that come up are things that you need to recognize as negative, and then instead of judging them and stewing on them and defending on them and getting into the whole dance we tend to do to make ourselves right, because we all want to be right.
Working backward from the behavior.
That's right. Yep. The best bet is to go, whoops, that's negative. Okay. What happened? You get curious. You want to explore. And the minute you start to explore, you're removing yourself from here. You're putting yourself into your higher order thinking, and you're going to be able to be discerning, not judgmental, but discerning about what just happened. What part did I play? What saboteur was in play? Was I avoiding? Was I being hyper rational and not feeling? Was I being a hyper achiever and pushing down everybody in my path? I mean, there's a whole bunch of saboteurs. There's 9 of them plus the judge, and we all have the judge.
Yeah. So maybe if there's one tool that we can give folks out there today, It's be the observer of what your emotions and feelings are that are coming up. And I think Eckhart Tolle calls it like the detached observer, or just observe,
Fly
like
on the wall.
try to think of yourself, like disassociate yourself and watch yourself, or think or see what those emotions and feelings are without judgment. And I get a little bit tied up in the positive negative thing, and just that, like, an emotion is an emotion. They're not positive, they're not negative. It's just an emotion, and some of them we want to have more than others, but the ones that we might not be wanting to have, we should probably be paying the most attention to, right? Because those are the ones that are probably the ones that we need to, work through the most, because nobody's ever really, worried when they're too happy, right? I'm never going, damn, I'm too happy today. There's like, let me pay attention to why I'm too happy. But when I'm not feeling good, when I'm down, or something triggers me and I'm angry, then like that's when I'm looking at an emotion that is maybe not going to benefit me in some way, and say, okay, what is that emotion? And then dig down into it, instead of going and playing video games or drinking or doing numbing whatever else. Yeah. Numbing out whatever else might come along in life, or that you've already put as a maladaptive, which is now a maladaptive behavior, right? Because it may have been an adaptive behavior, and even drinking or whatever it may have been that you did before in order to survive is not helping you now. So it's a maladaptive behavior. Stop that. Don't. Just be with that feeling, and then move forward from that.
Right. And so in positive intelligence, one of the very first step of getting involved in the program is doing a Saboteur assessment. And you can go onto the Positive Intelligence website and do the Saboteur assessment.
Okay.
Anybody can.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Okay. Anybody can go and do that. And then you can see the order in which these saboteurs come into play for you. And typically in conversation and positive intelligence in the mental fitness program, we work on the top 2 saboteurs, because the most important thing that we are teaching is how to shift from saboteur to sage. So from this part of the brain to this part of the brain. And it is through a mindfulness technique that we do it. And the difference between that and regular meditation is, regular meditation, you go into your meditation room, you close your eyes and you do your meditation for 20 minutes and I'm good for the day, right? Mm-hmm. But then you have that bad conversation and you're no longer good for the day.
Yeah.
So the way we are teaching it is how to do little chunks at various times throughout today. Interrupt your day, take 2 minutes and do a mindfulness exercise that takes you into this part of your brain, frees you up. You do it for an important meeting. You can do it. I could do it right here with you by hyper-focusing for 10 seconds on something that I'm looking at. If I found myself falling apart inside, being too anxious or something like that. The trick with this stuff is that you can use it when you're driving the car. You can use it anytime to just get yourself into an ease and flow state so that you can surf the waves rather than try and, hold them back, put up a dike, whatever it is you do to try and change a situation. You want to really learn to be a surfer and sailor, because life throws all these things to you. So what is it that you do? So it's about, take your hand off the hot stove, get curious. What went on there? What part of my brain am I in? What's the story I'm telling myself? Who's the saboteur in here telling me lies that if I do this, this is going to work and be good for me? And then, boom, you're in the right part of your brain and you get to it just relieves the tension. It takes the negativity away so you can really be in choice.
Right. That was a fantastic description of the whole thing. I thought that was perfect. So I just want to sum up, like, if you want to get involved in this positive intelligence and the mental fitness, it is really beneficial for you if you want and I'm taking this from some of the literature that you shared with me. If you want to feel less stress, more peace, and consistent happiness, even in tough times, you want to improve your personal and professional relationships. You want to be able to handle conflicts in ways that deepen trust and harmony. Want to perform better while working less hard, like athletes in the zone. I like that one, right? That's what you're just talking about. It gets you to like more peacefulness and more like serenity in your life. And are committed to improving your performance and effectiveness dramatically while reducing stress, and are willing to put in the initial time and effort to rewire years of mental habits that don't serve you. So that's I mean, I tell you what, that sounds like utopia for me if I could get to that, right?
It's a dream, and it's so magical. I can't even tell you. I mean,
So tell me quick, I wanted you to share, but so we're going to try to wrap up here, but I want you to share the story you shared with me about you going through this program yourself and how this had an impact on you. So maybe we'll wrap up with that story, because I really like that.
Okay. So I lost my dog of 12 years 2 years ago, and in the last 2 years I've said, no dog, I don't want a dog, I'm very busy, I'm working on my programs, I don't need that distraction in my life. My husband, on the other hand, felt a lot differently. He kept saying, Carol, we need a dog, there's not enough love in the house. And I'm going, oh my God, he's right. I am not all that loving these days. So finally I said, okay, we'll get a dog. Now, it takes a long time these days to get a dog, it appears. So in that interim, I started to take the positive intelligence, and I started to qualify as a certified coach. And I was in the 6-week program, and in about week 3.5, my husband went, what's with you? And I went, what did I do now? Oh no, what did I do now? And he said, no, you're just so easy. You're just in flow. You're so nice to me. He says, we don't need a dog anymore. And I said, I'm doing positive intelligence. Maybe you should too. And he has now too. We did get a dog, but he's way happier. He's our relationship. We still have our stuff. I mean, we're not black belt yet. We're not at the top of the game, and there's always room for improvement. Right. And it's about how quickly you get out of the negative and into the positive. That is so magical about this positive intelligence. And it happens to almost everyone. You do the work, you do the practice, and then you keep doing it for the rest of your life, just like you go to the gym for the rest of your life. It's just or yoga or anybody who's really committed to a practice over a long period of time. And it's magical.
Becomes a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Awesome. Carol, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your background in this. Where can the listeners find you, and how can we support you?
www.carolhenrycoaching.com. And on there's a place to book a call with me, and we can look at what you're looking for. Find 5 friends, 5 relations. Let's sign up for Positive Intelligence Mental Fitness. You will never, ever experiencing anything so life-changing and powerful.
Great. And are you on any of the social media?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. Just put in Carol Henry, you'll find me. There's a bunch of Carol Henrys out there. Put in Carol Henry Coaching. Okay. You'll find me.
Perfect. And we'll link all that stuff to the show notes below, as well as the book on positive intelligence and information on that. And then everybody else can also connect with me at thedivorcedadvocate.com. If you've liked what we've talked about today, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe, share it with somebody else, another dad that might be going through divorce. You can find us on the YouTube channel and on one of the major podcasts platforms. Write a review. That helps us immensely, letting other people know that what we're doing here is helping out. So Carol, again, thanks so much for being here. Enjoy your time down in the warmth there while I'm up here freezing, but I appreciate seeing you, and I hope to talk again soon.
Okay, let's talk again soon. Thanks.
All right, take care.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.